guys are hilarious. Hello, everybody. It's a lot lighter than when I came out here a few seconds ago. Now I can actually see faces, and I think that scares me a little bit. Thank you so much for being here. It's officially, 23 minutes past 2 o'clock, and thank you for making it to this part of the day. I am the last speaker. I'm just going to go with it and say that they've saved the best for last. I hope you can agree. 3 people over there agree with me. I appreciate that. All right. I can go with that. Yeah, thank you so much for being here for Inspire 2018. I'm going to talk about something that is hard for me to even do standing up here because I'm experiencing it as I'm standing before you, right? If I came to this platform today and encouraged you to live in fear, it would probably leave a lot of you thinking, Carissa, what are you talking about? If I was to stand here right now and tell you to actively pursue a life that makes you really unsettled and uneasy, I would probably discredit myself before even beginning. But I, Carissa Robin Cupido, from 41 Murray Strandfontein, that's standing here at Good Hope Christian Center, the 24th of September, am really willing to risk it all because I think this is such an important aspect of your life that you need to embrace. A year ago, I was standing on this platform. I looked a little bit different. I've got a better wardrobe right now, so that's a plus. That's an improvement. You can admire my dress. That's okay. You're allowed to. It might not look like too much has changed about me, though, but internally, where I am, the way I think, my mentality has shifted so radically. And that's because I chose to do those things that I just said to you. I chose to live in fear. Now, I don't know about you, but I was raised in church, this church in particular. And I was always raised to believe that fear is a negative emotion. It's a bad thing. It's a bad word we don't talk about. And it's also a bad state to occupy. It's not a good place for you to dwell in. That there were two opposing forces that were offered to me. It was love or it was fear. And you had to choose the one or the other. Fear being God. No, that's wrong. Love being God and fear being, of course, the other force, the other side of things. And things that fear bring are anxiety, darkness. It's a wasteful emotion because it doesn't really take you anywhere. But I want to tell you today that fear actually can be useful. It can actually be a good emotion to embrace and to run with it. So there's this thing called cognitive dissonance that I learned in varsity. It's a big word. I struggle to say it sometimes. But I feel like maybe 3 of you might be feeling it right now. And cognitive dissonance, according to psychology, is just basically when you as an individual go through this mental, short-circuiting moment where what you thought you believed is being attacked or contradicted. And you're holding these two opposing ideas or beliefs or values and you're not quite sure what to do with it. And that's how I felt when I considered fear to maybe be a good thing. Because I was like, I was never told that. I was never told that fear could actually help propel my journey into a direction that might actually serve me. But I did that a year ago. And let me just pause there and put out a disclaimer and say that I'm not saying that your journey is going to be easy once you embrace fear. I know all too well the side effects of what fear brings. I'm somebody that lives with high-functioning general anxiety, so every single move in my life is met with fear. Whether it is coming on this platform, whether it's ordering a meal at a restaurant, I am shaking because my brain just thinks a little bit too fast for me sometimes, and I consider all of the options before choosing the one. But even in the midst of that, I want to encourage you to still live in fear because the alternative is to live in comfort. Now, our bodies do this thing as human beings, right? Whenever we're faced with a fearful situation, you feel it. Your hands go clammy, your heart starts beating really quickly, everything drops in your stomach, you start hesitating and shaking, and that's because we have this thing called fight or flight. It's a reaction that we have to fearful situations. And I want to tell you not to flight, not to run, but to actually fight and refuse comfort. Because when you choose comfort, you actually are choosing stagnation. You're not going to grow in your journey. You're not going to progress. You'll be okay, and nobody's judging your decision if you choose to actually say, nah, this is not for me. It's okay. But know that that's what separates the good from the great, as long as you have that in your mind. So a year ago, I decided to step into this. Don't ask me why. As I said before, my brain thinks a lot faster than the rest of my body does, but I'd made a decision that I needed to progress in my career. So I always kind of considered it like this. There was the A, where I presently was. There was the big C, which is where I'm going, what my vision board tells me to embrace. And then there's that middle part. There's the B. It's the gooey center. It's something that I like to call the process. And the process is never pretty. And your body will try to resist the process. Your body will try to tell you, don't go down that road because you're going to be having the sweaty palms and having the breathlessness and having your heart beating very quickly. But I had to go through it because I knew where I wanted to be. My vision board again was telling me, Carissa, that big C, you are the big C. That's where you actually need to be in your life. So just over 365 days ago, on the 1st of June of last year, I decided to actively pursue my journey. And I booked a one-way ticket to Joburg. Joburg is a place, we're told, where your dreams come true. For those of you who don't know, I'm an entertainer, I'm a radio presenter, I'm a TV host as well. And in Cape Town, it's great, it's good, but in Joburg, it's the city of gold for a reason, right? It's even bigger, even better to an extent. The opportunities are, of course, a lot greater. So I decided that's where I need to be. I'm now 24 at the time. I need to actually actively embark on this journey because something happens when you step outside of your comfort zone. They say that that's where the magic occurs. And I guess that is what happened. So I went with all the excitement in the world. I just come off the leg of an incredible event. It was called Kasi Collective that I had in Cape Town with two people, one actually from this church, Lauren Henderson, and another girl, Roxanne Kali. And we decided that all our outfits that we had worn on red carpets and to events that people obviously liked on Instagram, we were going to sell it. And I figured this is the best way to go into Joburg. I'm going to just strip myself of the old, metaphorically, I was not naked, and enter into a new phase in my life. That excitement, that ambition, it lasted, I would say, about 5 days. I obviously left with a very empty bag off to Joburg, but then once everything was again stripped away, I was tired and scared and lonely. My family wasn't there. I'd moved into my boyfriend's mom's place. So it was just the two of us hustling in Joburg. But I like to carry burdens alone. I don't really like making it feel like it's anybody else's responsibility but my own. So there I was with a big dream, no money, no job, zero prospects. I had some sort of dormant income that was coming in, or passive income, every single month, so that helped. And I also only had 3 outfits on rotation, which, as somebody who loves fashion, was probably the hardest part of it all. I had like a pair of jeans, a track pants, and maybe like a hoodie, which we all know that does not an outfit make. So I was out there in fear, walking in it actively, being scared to death, but also knowing that I had no other choice, because this was the reality that I had chosen for myself, a reality that I feel God had given to me, that I needed to actually pursue. And I think something beautiful happens when you do that. I honestly think that God rewards you when you honor your journey. The only way to know what your journey is to know who you are. It's a self-assurance that comes with interrogating your insides. There's this author that I came across, his name is Robert Greene. And he was talking about power. And he was trying to explain that power is a very small margin in your life. We don't control about 97 to what goes on around us, right? It's circumstances that happen to us depending on the environment that you're in. But then there's that small margin. There's that 2% that you can kind of work with. And when you exert control, that's when power happens. And the point of power is to increase it. So you want to take that margin from 2%, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. You probably can't push past that before God's like, whoa, the rest is up to me. But he was basically saying that power comes from within, and it's a self-assurance. It's kind of those things that you have to go, what makes me mad? What makes me happy? What brings me joy? What drains me of my energy? What edifies me? What encourages me? What sort of company should I keep? Somebody was saying that earlier on, that birds of a feather, they flock together. And also, what drives you? What is your purpose? These are these big existential questions that we have to ask ourselves in order to live a purpose-driven life. So I was sitting with these questions and I had my answers, and I was in Joburg doing that. And what basically happened is that I became a nuisance to radio stations because I knew that I needed to be on the station, but they didn't know that I needed to be. So I had to convince them somehow. I would send my demo 5 times a day and follow it up with a phone call 5 times a day. I'm like, hey, do you remember me? I just called a second ago. Because what happens is in radio stations, you have the boss, you have the program manager, but then you have his PA, and then you have the secretary before her. So I have to break down these gatekeepers in order to get to where I need to be. So I'm phoning, having to basically beg for them to take a moment and listen to my demo. Didn't quite happen until I got an opportunity at a bilingual station. Any Afrikaans speakers? 3 of you? Ah, come on. Any Afrikaans speakers here? Okay, don't laugh at this next part. I grew up in an Afrikaans household. My parents are Afrikaans, but I was raised English. You could probably hear that if I speak Afrikaans right now, you won't understand it. But basically, I had to audition at the station and sat down in like a fake studio setup, got my headphones, got all the confidence in the world. Also, the news reporter that came in, I was like, listen, girl, can you just help me with these words? Because I don't even remember how to pronounce them from like Mondelings in high school. So you're just going to have to give me a hand here. And it was tough. I threw in phrases that I'd vaguely heard my parents say, like, my seene wens is afgedaan. And they kind of were, for this, I think I said, my nerves are finished. I'm not quite sure. And they also had to have me say numbers because I was doing some sort of live read, selling a car for a certain amount of money. And I remember saying something like, 588. My mouth was just moving and I didn't know what was coming out of it. I was just like, this is a disaster. But I'm going to continue with the confidence. You know, maybe I've got this. Maybe God's like, this is the time to push yourself even more and increase that Afrikaans that your mom's been wanting you to speak. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. And I had to move on from that. I thought that might have been my big break, but it really did not serve me. So after that, I decided instead of emails, I physically have to show up at radio stations. Again, I'm going to remind you about the fear. I don't like putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I don't like feeling like I'm begging you to give me a job. I don't like feeling like I'm going to have to grovel and go on my knees to get something that I feel I'm really good at. But I had to. So I traveled from Pretoria to Joburg, which is kind of like Stellenbosch to Cape Town, but a little bit further. With no money, mind you, because I still had no job, and we're probably 5 months into this now. And I knocked on the door. And again, there was a gatekeeper. Her name's Lily. And I was like, yo, my name's Carissa, like, here's my demo on a flash drive, here's my cover letter, here's this and that. You're going to have to convince your boss to have me. And she was like, I'm sorry, who are you? No. And she refused me. I had to walk away. It was really hard, but I swallowed my pride and walked. Then I went back again. I said, listen, you remember me from last week. I'm back again. My demo, please just slide it onto your boss's desk. He really needs to listen to this. I think I want... That's definitely, it's not how it happens in Joburg. People drop their CDs, rappers that want to be great all the time, and you're just not one of those people. And I almost believed her. I was like, all right. I had my boyfriend next to me because I needed moral support at that point. And that's when he took over. And he was running off my CV. And it really made me choke up because I was proud. I had even forgotten that I'd done all these things. He was like, this is Carissa Cupido, TLC's next great presenter. She's been to London twice. She's been on international platforms. And just kind of running it off. And this woman was just staring at him like, Chrissy, who are you now? Why is there another person in this equation? Both of you need to leave my space. We walked away, of course, defeated, deflated, me for the most part. And somebody ran after me. And I turned around, and it was this beautiful woman. Her name is Mal, a curl friend, if you will. She had curly hair like me, so I was like, I see you, we're connected. And she said that she is the boss's assistant. She's the program manager's assistant. And she was like, listen, give me your email address. I'm going to try my best to do what I can. And she did the things. I was back again there for the 3rd time. Not feeling great because I've been rejected twice. Do I want to go back a 3rd time? I guess I have to. I have no other choice. Fear's trying to hold me back and keep me comfortable and say, why don't you go get a 9 to 5? But I was like, ugh, I wasn't really made for that kind of life. This face is too pretty. And I moved on into his office. Came in there with a prepared package. I can't even explain to you how well-groomed I felt I was. I'd Googled, questioned, and answered them myself, so I knew what was coming for me. sat down, ran off who I was, told him that he needs me. And he was just like, no, I don't think so. You've definitely told me about where you are right now. I remember the phrase, it was quite corny, but he said, you're telling me about your glory, but what is your story? And I was like, my story is that I'm here today. And I'm here to ask you to take me. And he was like, no, go home, rehash everything, and come back telling me where you came from. Tell me about Strandfontein. Tell me where you grew up. Tell me how that's influenced your life right now. I went back and I thought, vulnerability? I'm not sure about that. I need him to see my power. I need him to see how great I am. I don't want to talk about when I was a kid I was fat and that really impacted my life. I don't want to talk about the fact that I've got this accent that I was made fun of. I don't want to talk about, my hair that I've only now started to love. I didn't want to talk about all those things. And I came back, he clearly saw that and he said no. Mind you, 4th time back at YFM, the radio station, and being refused 4 times. Obviously I'm tired. Obviously fear's going like, told you so. Obviously I'm going, Mom, I'm coming home. It was tempting to buy a ticket. 500 Rand away was my comfort. I could easily just go backwards, right? But I didn't. I chose to, again, walk in fear. Because I knew that on the other side of that, on the other side of the discomfort, there has to be something, surely. And what basically happened, and I feel like this must have been God. It couldn't have been. But when I was at Good Up, into about 2 years there, somebody was listening to me on the radio and had contacted me. And I was like, I'm in Cape Town at the moment, so I won't be able to come to you in Joburg. He was like, don't worry about it. When I was in Joburg, I contacted him. And he was the station, the 580. He was that guy that said, cool, come on through. He was okay with me, but his boss, who was like a proper Afrikaans man, was like, she's not speaking the right things. So he was like, sorry, I couldn't help you out. I then was obviously desolate for a little while, but then something happened at YFM where they kicked out the old program manager and took him on. And I was like, whoa, what's going on now? Why is there all this movement? And I almost feel like God must have moved things around like a chessboard in order for things to be aligned for me to make it there on time. I needed to go through all of that to be able to come out on the other side and say, okay, 7 months in, now we're going somewhere, right? Now I'm actually being rewarded for my sacrifice. And I got a job. He sat me down, was offering a weekend slot once a week, and I was grateful. I was like, that's okay, I'll do 4 hours on a Saturday. I think it was a week or 2 later after I'd expressed gratitude and prayed and was so excited that he phoned me again and said, you know what, Carissa, we're going to offer you weekday. Monday through to Thursday evenings, prime time, 7 till 10 o'clock, come on through. And I was just like, whoa. Are you telling me that all those times that I had to be rejected, all those times that I had to make my way up and down from Pretoria to Joburg, all of those times that I basically cried in bathrooms because I was like, what is this? I cannot do this anymore. That it actually worked out 7 months later? It's the process. It's that gooey center. It's that bee. It's ugly. Don't let people tell you otherwise. Fear is also ugly. Like, it's not something that is presented to you in a way that should be romanticized because it's not a good place to be in. But it's a necessary place to be in because it builds your character. It shapes you. It prepares you to be in the big C. You're at the A, you've walked through the B, and you can confidently embrace the next part of your life. So it felt really good. I'm not going to lie. Being on radio feels like it's not work, but it's something that I get paid to do, so you can applaud me right now. So I've taken it upon myself to embrace fear as a lifestyle. And some people say it's actually me walking in faith, and maybe it is. I think it's just semantics. It's basically the same thing, but I just don't want you to retract from whenever you feel fearful. And I think that often from the platform, we don't talk about fear. And when we do talk about it, it's in a way that scares you. And yeah, it's a scary thing. Yeah, it's not a fun thing to go through, but it's part of the human experience. And it's part of, like I was saying before, the process that you need to go through in order to be where you want to be in your life, whatever it may be. It might not be a radio presenter, might not be a TV host, could be an accountant, could be a marine biologist, could be, I don't know what other jobs are on the spectrum, but anything else out there. So I've taken it upon myself to embrace fear as a lifestyle. About a week and a day ago, I went skydiving. I found out that I was afraid of heights when I was 10,000 meters above ground. And I was like, this is not a good time to figure out that I don't like being off the ground. But I was, and it was really, really scary. And it was part of something that I'm calling a year of firsts, where I don't know when the last time was that you did something for the first time is, but for me, it didn't happen that often, because who would willingly want to put themselves in an airplane and jump out of it, hoping that this parachute will shoot up and capture them? It did. Obviously, I'm still here. I hurt my back, but I'm good. It was a really, really scary experience, but if anybody wants to come at me now, I can be like, I jumped out of a plane, I'm good. And I'm trying to just do things that will put me in uncomfortable situations so that, again, I'll step out of my comfort zone. Nothing comes from comfort. It might be peaceful, it might be restful, your body might be saying, Carissa, come back, don't go there. But it doesn't breed growth. And that's what you need in order to survive in the world. So if there's anything I'm telling you today, it's to walk in fear. It's to embrace fear with open arms, because that's the only way that you are actually going to come out a better version of yourself. A Carissa 2.0, if you will. Thank you.